Okay, so we'll move on to our next presentation. So our next speakers will be talking about how they have implemented AI agents from end to end. So it will be really useful for anybody in the audience who's actually at the beginning of their journey. So with apologies for my terrible Dutch pronunciation, I'm delighted to welcome Almar and Tjeerd down to the stage from Vattenfall. Welcome, thank you. Good to see you. Hi, good to see you. Who would like to click that?
All right. Thanks, everyone, for withstanding the call of Amazon and staying to listen to our story. See how this works, yes. So we're here today to tell you about a large-scale migration project that we are doing at Vattenfall. And we're doing it in-house, so without any external partner. I will tell you a little bit about the vision and the strategy behind it, and Almar here will tell you about the execution. So a little bit about ourselves. I am Tjeerd. That's how you pronounce it. And I'm manager customer AI, meaning I'm responsible, for example, for generative AI, conversational AI, and robotic process automation. And this is Almar. He's a product lead, conversational AI. So let's start with a real quick introduction into what Vattenfall is. I imagine a lot of you won't recognize the brand, so it's good to start there. This is, of course, a lot of facts that you will probably forget pretty fast. But what is interesting is that we are a commercial energy company that is 100% owned by the Swedish state. And we are active in multiple, especially Northern European markets. So you see the Nordics, Sweden and Denmark. Germany is a large presence, especially Northern Germany, the Netherlands and the UK. And here you see, as you'll notice, there's an effect here. We are mostly focused on the generation of green energy. So wind is super important to us, especially in the North Sea. Hydro, and those of you who speak Swedish will know Vattenfall means waterfall, referring to our heritage in Swedish hydro energy. And what is important for us, especially now in these grim political times, is that we stay committed to reducing our footprint and committing to 1.5 degrees, or our share in 1.5 degrees emissions, and net zero in 2040. So we are in the customers section of the company, meaning we focus on delivering energy to households mainly and businesses. And in that, sorry, the clicker doesn't always respond. In that, we have a service contact strategy, which most of you will probably have as well. Ours is, in that sense, pretty simple. We focus on less is more. The more channels you have, the more contact you will have, and that is, of course, perfect if you're in e-commerce or in a sales environment. If you want to do efficient service, that is less awesome. So what is special for us is that we have customer service agents that are very experienced. A lot of them are with us for 15 or 20 years already. And we call them energy advisors because we want them to find the right solutions for customers and to really support customers in making sustainable decisions, for example. So that is powered by a highly efficient self-service with a focus on conversational AI. Conversational AI is super important to us in that sense. We started with a POC in 2018 with our chatbot Nina. And you will probably all know this matrix, the value-oriented matrix, about what the interactions customers like to have and what they don't like to have. And we are, of course, trying to leverage high-value interactions and to automate everything else. Because that would help to free up the space, the time, and to keep efficient these high-value interactions that our human agents have. And we're doing that on WhatsApp, in the app, on our website, a little bit on telephony, and we have an agent assist bot. And to give you a bit of a feeling for the scale of the bot, for example, on WhatsApp, I think we have around 400 intents, 40 backend integrations, and that is without the agent assist, for example. And I didn't put it in the slide because of photos, but we from every WhatsApp conversation that comes in, 1/3 never gets to a human agent. And if you look at the performance of Nina herself, because it's an asynchronous channel, we don't want to touch repeating conversations, because you can never know if a customer after a couple of days starts following up on the conversation, and we don't touch those conversations. So actually her own success rate is 50% on WhatsApp, which is pretty high. So, minding the shop is not the way we like to do things. So we are already pretty efficient with delivering conversational AI self-service, but we planned in 2023 to double, actually, that amount, and especially focus on the customer experience of Nina. Because although, she saves us a lot of money, and although she does pretty well in most cases, for a lot of people, it's not fun to use a bot, especially 2023 is the time GPT wasn't at the place where it is now, for example, within Cognigy. And that is because design principles that we try to have is the customer feels understood, they feel they have had success, and you want to feel them cared for. And of course, that is super hard to do. Agentic will help, but it's not the only thing we believe that is necessary here. Because most bots forget that they are part of a customer journey, meaning that they forget that there is an interaction before that, there's an interaction after what the bot does. And a lot of you will probably recognize this, the type of journey where you try something on a website, it doesn't work or it doesn't meet your expectations. You talk to a bot, it tries to do the same interaction again. You call, and the company proposes to send you an SMS to send you back to their website. So, like I said, that is because you don't understand what happened before and what happened after. And that is what we wanted to try to fix mostly. So we want one continuous omnichannel self-service journey, especially conversational. We want seamless switching between these conversational channels and between other self-service channels, so that from an app, you go to Nina, and she recognizes what you already did in the app, for example. It should feel highly personalized and context-aware. And the way we want to do that is to put our conversational AI platform in the middle of everything. So from this year on, it won't be possible to talk to a person within Vattenfall, the Netherlands, without going through Nina first. And she can decide not to do anything with the conversation. She can decide to only do authentication, based on what the journey before and after will look like. But at least she's in the middle of everything. And we scanned the platform that we started out with. You see a scatter plot here of every capability that we found important for meeting our vision. And you see, making a difference. There was only one that we scored as good. So that wouldn't help us get to where we wanted to be. And that's why we went into a formal RFP process. It was won by Cognigy, obviously, because otherwise we wouldn't be here. Mainly, from a technology perspective, it was the winner in most RFP categories. Of course, people working with the platform will know this. It's probably best in the market in usability. And we loved how scalable the architecture is. On the business side, culture was super important to us as well. So, they have a strong vision, strong customer focus, and overall nice guys to work with. And privacy and security, of course, for an especially Northern European company, but everyone in the EU will be familiar with this. Keeping data within the EU, for example, to meet GDPR standards, things like that, were a large part of our selection process as well. So we signed the contract, I guess, the day before the third quarter last year, and we immediately started doing the migration. Almar will tell you more about that. Need the clicker?
Definitely, yeah. Great. All right. So as Tjeerd introduced, I'm going to talk a little bit about once you're going to migrate towards Cognigy, or you're already doing it, we definitely have a couple of tips because there's a ton of challenges that come with it as well. And Tjeerd already showcased, I think you get it also that vibe when you listen to the different talks here and you see that it's never really about one touch point. You're always introducing Cognigy at a lot of different touch points at the same time. So once you're planning your architecture, you need to already be considering this from the beginning, which is quite tough when you don't know how everything is going to look at that point. Similarly, if you're doing a migration, chances are you already have a chatbot in place or some other kind of conversational AI solution, which means you not only have to automate, and that's going to be great every win you get, but you also need to outperform your previous architecture, your previous bot. And you're going to have to be able to report that as well. And that is also a big challenge that you need to think about, how you're going to do that. Finally, these projects never happen in isolation. So you're in quite a big stack if you're looking at customer contact. Usually there's call software, there's chat software, you're getting back-end calls, you're retrieving information. Usually when you look at it, at least one of these pieces is going to be moving, like they're going to get updated or they're also going to migrate. So you're going to have to keep track of that. And for us, for instance, that was Genesis Cloud migration that was happening at the same time. And because of that, we made a lot of decisions on trade-offs on speed as well so that we could deliver faster and not get away in the way of these projects. And I think that's a very common experience as well. And part of the reason why we were able to get started so quickly is we have a very good in-house team. We have very experienced conversation designers, and they also know a lot about the company itself, right? That's really going to help you get off the ground. So we chose to do all the development of our conversational solution with Cognigy in-house. I think it has some benefits long-term. Everyone is going to know how to work with the product, and it's obviously great for your business case, but you have to keep track of the fact that this is very tough on your team, right? This is a big project, and you don't usually have the backup resources that an agency might have. You can't switch out your experts. So if one of your most senior leaders is going to go on vacation for a little while or somehow they're not available, that's really going to hammer on your timeline. So you need to account for a little bit of resilience in your project or in your team on either side to make sure you don't fall into that pitfall. So that's one that we really learned the hard way as well. And if you have an existing conversational solution, you're not going to abandon it day one, right? So you're going to have to keep this thing running. You might have to have someone on your team maintain the solution, update content, keep everything going. So you also need to account for that in your timeline. I think we forgot this one when we started off. We didn't plan for that at all, but you need a certain percentage of your time to be dedicated towards this. And we would have loved to go straight into all the cool features that you've seen here the last couple of presentations and yesterday with agentic and all that. But if you have other dependencies in your company, you might need to move fast, and we focused on migrating our content as is as much as possible. Get Cognigy set up, be stable, and then move towards the cool, exciting features. Of course, you can grab some things along the way, right? So you can redesign your main flows, your contact architecture, the way you're going to do intents, because you're going to have to do those anyway. So we did grab some of those improvements as we went along. But obviously, some of the cooler innovations, you might have to push them down the road a little bit. That's also, our mentality for the whole thing was to fail pretty fast. I think we know this in startups and innovation, having a lean startup model, right, and getting feedback fast from your customers, that's to be the way to go. But we forget this with these large projects. It's just so much easier to do it waterfall. and you tend to gravitate towards that automatically. We chose very consciously to, for once in our life, if you know Tjeerd and me, we don't usually do this, to not be arrogant and assume that we would do everything right away. And this time we built in the option to adjust based on customer feedback. So that's why our core strategy was get Nina in front of customers as quick as possible on Cognigy. We did that in 3 different main tracks. One is the web and WhatsApp side, which we also did as is migration. We have a RAG system for internal employees, and then we also have voice bots on our IVR system, which we also did as is to not interfere with that Genesis Cloud migration that I just mentioned. I'm going to dive into this web app WhatsApp migration, which was really our biggest track that a lot of our team has focused on. And I think core to our strategy, like I said, is diverting customers to Cognigy as soon as possible. And we did that when we only had 3 high-level intents ready in Cognigy. So what we did is we directed a steady percentage, 20% of our customers towards Cognigy. Then we check there, can we match the intent to something that we have already filled in terms of content? If so, then we keep the conversation there and we evaluate it as if it was a regular Cognigy conversation. Otherwise, we just send it back to our old platform. Oh, sorry. And then we handle it there. And so really out of that 20%, maybe at the start, we only had 2% that we really picked up in Cognigy. Over time, we've increased that as we've built more content into it. And then once you hit a certain critical mass, you can start scaling up the 20% that you actually send towards Cognigy to really start evaluate the difference between the 2 platforms. This allowed us to be very quick towards production and also get feedback really quickly. I think the difference is 2 months to maybe 6 or 7 months before we would have hit that threshold, right? So that's a really big difference in terms of when you're first going to speak to your customers. To release that often and keep updating the content, we had to get a little bit more professional in our release process. We took some pages out of the book of regular software development and used the Cognigy projects basically as our, oh, sorry, this happens a lot, but we've used it as our Git branches, basically, right? So we use the Cognigy main project as our production branch, then we have an acceptance project, and we have personal projects that people can work on the content on. You then use the packaging features that Cognigy has to move content around between your branches. One thing that you have to learn is using the playbooks feature, because that is basically our software unit testing system. So whenever someone is going to push a change, they're going to have to build tests for the content. They need to pass, but they also need to pass all the old tests before you can actually merge this. Someone needs to review it, just like you would a pull request. And that's how we really got into the flow of professionalizing this. I will not claim we did it right the first release, actually not the first couple releases, maybe not even the first 10, but at some point we did have this in place, which I think really helps us now as a professional and mature team. Also, if you're moving existing technical capabilities towards Cognigy, I think generally it's pretty doable, and we ended up with more capacity on the technical side than content, which was a real bottleneck. So in the end, you can really use your technical expertise to facilitate conversation designers that are making the flows. By abstracting some of the stuff that they might have to do into the extensions that Cognigy offers, you can put a lot of stuff in there and make conversation design easier. It really allows you to kind of transfer your FTEs basically that you have in tech towards content and move faster on that side as well. Something that you might know, if you're in conversation design, if you've done AI training of any kind, there's a lot of reading conversations on production, checking out what customers are actually doing. If you're going to do a migration, you need to save some space in every single sprint to read conversations, especially if you just put something live. And that doesn't just mean reading conversations, but you also need to free up someone to make changes if you find bugs, because you're going to find them probably. And so these changes also need to be made. Ends up being almost 20% of your timeline. So if you're going to plan out for a migration, I would really suggest you take that into consideration, sketching out your product timeline. Finally, like I said, you need to evaluate how your solution is doing compared to your existing solution, and it really helps to have some dashboarding in place. And the Cognigy endpoint works really well for this. We only had to tweak a little bit into the existing flow, so you do need to make some changes there using the Cognigy goals feature. Really helpful to set your business KPIs as goals in your Cognigy flows. There is a feature for this, and then you can denote things like, okay, was I able to make it to the end of a flow, yes or no? Was I handed over to a legacy solution? Did I make it to an agent, etc.? And you can then automatically see these in reporting. And that's really important if you're going to get questions about if you are outperforming your old systems or not. So you need to use this feature most likely, or you have to build some custom infrastructure to track it. That was our main project, the migration of web and app, and there was also this little side project that we have, which is our knowledge base, which is turned into a huge project actually, and it's kind of a RAG knowledge base solution for our internal employees who in the service operation. And we tried to do this same agile approach for this project, which is tough because you're going to have a project based on the LLM, and part of the appeal of the LLM is that it has very complete knowledge. So if you only have limited knowledge, testing that with users is kind of tough. What we did is we covered by hand the first couple of documents that we were going to use and turned them into chunks, also by hand for the most part. And we focused on one specific customer service skill so that those people could already start using it. And as we went along, we have professionalized our ingestion pipeline to get more documents into Cognigy and focus on doing that skill by skill, basically topic by topic, and so on, try to add more users to our pilot as well. So that's kind of how our process went. Once we hit a critical mass of users, we could start doing experimentation on how the LLM actually approaches the conversation. We distinguish certain question types, for instance. So that is really important. Also, these traps, I think, good to highlight. If you're going to start early with only one skill, very limited set of documents, make sure you prime the users very well that that's not all the feedback they're going to give, because 80% of the feedback we were getting was not all the content is there, and we knew that already, right? So you want to avoid that. And then as you get more market ready, your product is closer to being finished, try to keep that to a minimum, start lowering the amount of priming that you do on your employees, and then make sure you avoid the second trap, which is that they only give the opposite side of feedback, that they already have ingrained how the solution is going to look and only give feedback based on that, right? Then I think for the final track, we have a little video that I want to end off with.
Goedemiddag.
But we don't have sound.
Vattenfall.
That's interesting.
Leuk dat je nog een keer belt. Via WhatsApp kunnen wij je sneller helpen. Zeg ja als je een WhatsApp bericht van ons wilt ontvangen of nee als je geen WhatsApp wilt ontvangen.
Ja.
Je hebt van ons een WhatsApp bericht ontvangen. Ga alsjeblieft verder met het gesprek op je telefoon. De verbinding wordt nu verbroken.
This is just a little showcase of the multi-channel architecture that we've worked on, right? So handing over conversations quickly between phone and WhatsApp. If you have a topic that we can easily help you with on WhatsApp, it's really helpful to be able to divert users to this channel, help them there quickly. Or maybe in the future we can do this with the Vattenfall app, which currently we're not doing that. I think this is also an interesting opportunity for us. So let's close it out. A little bit of the takeaways summarized for you guys. If you're going to do a migration like this and you want to keep it in-house, you have the experience, you have a mature team, you can definitely do it. Keep in mind what I said, you have to build some extra resilience into your project, just like you would grant an agency, for instance, if you contracted them. Do that with your own team as well. Don't forget to keep everyone informed all the time. You're going to touch a lot of teams with your migration, right? All the teams that have their content in the chatbot, but also the teams that are part of the rest of the stack. So tell your stories and tell them right. Make sure you're all on the same page about this. You have a very concise and clear message that you're getting out, and tell it very often, not just to your stakeholders, also to your team. And with your team, once you get something done, make sure you celebrate it as well, because these projects are pretty tough on the people that work on them. It's pretty long haul to move all your content to a new solution like Cognigy. Remember that. If you're going to be doing a project for a year, make sure you give them credit, you celebrate along the way, otherwise people are not going to be very happy. And finally, I think what we've shown is you can waterfall these projects. It makes your life easier, but you're going to miss out on a lot of value. You're going to end up in a different place than you would have otherwise, most likely. So I think what we've shown is there is a way that you can do it. Do consider it. Because you're going to be better for it, the end product is going to be closer to your users. So if you can, do that. I think that's it for others.
Thank you.
Questions?